The thing about being a credit card content creator is that we tend to apply for and open up much more credit cards than the average American cardholder. And because of that, and recording our journeys to provide the content that our audiences want to watch, I think a natural and unintentional side effect is that our viewers may be encouraged to open up too many credit cards. So in today's video, we'll discuss 5 warning signs that you may have too many credit cards so that you can take a step back to reevaluate your strategy and determine whether or not you should cancel any of your credit cards or continue business as usual and apply for and open up more credit cards. This first one is basic, but believe me, it can start to happen, and that is you're starting to pay interest simply because you're either forgetting to pay off your statements or you're beginning to lose track of how much money you're actually spending because you have too many credit cards. The very first tip that everyone should follow, regardless of how many credit cards you have, is to make sure you set up automatic payments to make that minimum monthly payment automatically for all of your credit cards. We are all human and things happen outside of our control that may cause us to forget to make our minimum monthly payments on time. What that automatic minimum monthly payment will do is help you to avoid paying any late fees in the event that you forget to submit your payment on time. However, if you find that you're beginning to lose track of your spending and you're now overspending and you simply just can't pay off that credit card statement in full, then you definitely have too many credit cards in your wallet because it is now beyond your ability to manage them effectively. And this can easily sneak up on someone who has, for example, over 10 credit cards. Let's say that you charge a couple $100s to a few of those credit cards within a statement period, seeing a balance of $275 on one of those credit cards, then $125 on another credit card, and let's say another $150 on the third credit card, and so on and so forth. Mentally, those individual balances may seem minuscule, but let's say you have those low balances across 10 credit cards, you can easily begin to approach over $1,500 in balances without even knowing it until you sit down and actually do the math. So having so many credit cards can somewhat hide how much money you're actually spending, especially if you aren't tracking your expenses on a spreadsheet or notebook, and put you at risk of carrying a balance from month to month and therefore incurring a interest rate charge. Now, if you're in the other group like I found myself in recently, which is forgetting to pay off your statement balance because of having so many credit cards, then at least this one can be fixed easily. But you probably may want to start thinking whether or not you should consider closing credit cards that may not bring value to you any longer. So what happened with me was I actually forgot to pay my statement in full on one of my credit cards, specifically the Capital One Venture X, by the due date. Now, this happened because I literally overlooked the credit card during my set aside day that I pay off all of my credit card statements. And the reason why I overlooked it is simply because I actually thought I submitted that payment when I really didn't. And what caused me to be at a greater risk of making this mistake is because I have credit cards from 5 different issuers, which means that I was logging into each of my different credit card accounts to submit payments to multiple credit cards, and they ended up overlooking the Venture X credit card with Capital One, which then caused me to carry over that balance, thereby accruing interest charges. And thankfully, it was just a balance that was really small. This could have been completely avoided if I chose to set up auto pay to pay the entire statement balance. However, you live and you learn, folks. You live and you learn. If you have 10 plus credit cards, chances are you have credit cards from multiple credit card issuers, which means that your monthly spend may be divided between 3, 4, or even 5 credit card issuers like me. The somewhat good news is a lot of the credit card issuers do have overlapping transfer partners for those of you who are accumulating points and miles to book travel. So there are opportunities to be able to combine those points from different point ecosystems if you are transferring those to the same transfer partner, but this isn't going to be the case all of the time. So for example, we know that groceries and dining are one of the top monthly expenses for most households. So let's say you have the Amex Gold card, which has a $325 annual fee, as we know, and a strong 4x rewards multiplier in both the restaurant and grocery store categories. And let's say you also have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which has a $95 annual fee, but it also earns 3x points at restaurants and 3x points on online groceries only. And you also have the City Strata Premier, which also earns 3x points at grocery stores and restaurants, and also comes with a $95 annual fee. Some of you who may be new to the game may be thinking, why would you get all of these credit cards if all three of them have overlapping categories? There could be multiple different reasons for this, and I just won't get into that in today's video, but the biggest one of all is getting those attractive welcome offers. But the point I want to make is, after you've received the welcome offer and you're still holding on to these cards, it'll be difficult to accumulate points quickly within these spending categories on all three of these credit cards. What typically happens is that you gravitate to using one of those credit cards for whichever reason you deem necessary, whether it be because you can earn points quicker with the Amex Gold card, or you value transfer partners within one ecosystem higher than the next, but you can still squeeze some value with some of those other credit cards, right? After all, the Amex Gold card doesn't have all of the reward categories that the other credit cards have. So you may decide to keep the City Strata Premier because you can get 3x points at gas on all of your gas station purchases. However, you know that you only fill up once per month and it costs you around $45, which means you're only going to earn 135 points per month. And the same goes with the Sapphire Preferred. Maybe you decide to keep it because you can earn a 3x on select streaming services, but you only spend $85 per month on those eligible subscriptions. So you end up earning a total of 255 points per month. I know that that is extreme, but when you have multiple credit cards, this becomes the reality really quickly. My point is, spreading out your spend to try to maximize every dollar spent can actually cost you to accrue points pretty slowly across multiple ecosystems. That'll take you years to even realize the value from those points earned in those ecosystems. Whereas, yes, you may get a 1x back on the Amex Gold card, but if you're accumulating a lot of points on that Gold card, it may be worth it to cancel your streaming services reward multiplier credit card and shift that minuscule amount of spend over to your catch-all credit card, which is something that all of us in the Points and Miles community should have in our wallets. And in the case of American Express, it may be the Amex Blue Business Plus, which gets you 2x membership reward points on up to $50,000 in spend per calendar year. As you become more advanced in the credit card game, you'll begin to apply for credit cards with annual fees, and they can get pretty pricey. I mentioned earlier on, the Amex Gold card has that $325 annual fee, and that is a very popular card in this credit card game. Another popular one is the Hilton Honors Aspire card, and that has an annual fee of $550. And while I'm on that dollar amount, the Chase Sapphire Reserve has the same annual fee. In fact, a lot of the credit cards that come with some of the highest welcome offers tend to come with an annual fee of some sort, maybe not as expensive as the ones that I mentioned, but over time, these really begin to add up, as I've seen some credit card content creators share that they're paying over $3,000 in annual fees. Now, there's no way that I can personally afford that, as that is way too much for me to pay in annual fees. However, my total amount of annual fees on credit cards is now at $1,010 per year, which exceeds the maximum that I wanted to pay, which is no more than $1,000. However, I ended up exceeding that because one thing I learned by firsthand experience is that annual fees can change, and they usually change to become more expensive. As you all know, the annual fee on the Amex Gold card increased from $250 to the $325 that it is now, and the annual fee on my Hilton Honors Business credit card went from $95 to $195. Both of these annual fee increases occurred within the same year. Now, I'm not happy with paying over $1,000 in annual fees to have the privilege of holding credit cards, so that means that I have to cancel at least one of these credit cards, and it's most likely going to be my Hilton Honors Business credit card, but I haven't decided on that 100% yet. So we'll see what happens. So if you've exceeded your limit in the amount of annual fees that you want to pay, then the only solution is to let go of one or more of those credit cards in your wallet. We've heard a lot about statement credit burnout, and this is popular with American Express. Essentially, some annual fee credit cards on the market offer statement credits in some form to help offset the annual fee. So basically, you're paying a fee to a credit card issuer who then gives you a coupon or a voucher in the form of a statement credit if you spend money in a very specific way using that specific credit card. And a lot of the credit card issuers have embraced this approach, including Capital One, Chase, Citi, American Express, and even Wells Fargo. However, amongst all of them, American Express seems to be the most notorious offender of this simply because of how they choose to administer these statement credits. For example, when we look at the Chase Sapphire Reserve, its main statement credit is the $300 annual travel credit, which is relatively easy to use. Now, I will argue that Chase is beginning to become a little bit more like American Express, because if we take a look at the $1,000 in additional partnership benefits, the list seems to be growing bit by bit as time goes on through the years. But not all of these are permanent benefits, as they do have an expiration date, and they're mostly focused on membership, so it isn't as taxing yet. In comparison, when we look at the American Express Platinum card, which is the worst offender, you have statement credits that might not be much of a hassle to use since it isn't split throughout the year, and those credits include the Claire credit, Equinox credit, airline fee credit, and the hotel credit. Then you have credits that become slightly annoying and much more taxing to use, because you cannot use them all at once and either have to use them semi-annually or monthly, and these credits are also use it or lose it. These include the Walmart Plus credit, digital entertainment credit, Uber Cash, the Saks credit, and I feel like I'm forgetting something because I know this card has a lot of credits. And that's just one card from American Express. Imagine having one of the Hilton Honors credit cards where you get the resort credit that you can only use semi-annually at participating Hilton resorts, or a flight credit that's split quarterly. Eventually, the amount of statement credits across several credit cards can become a lot to juggle and make this hobby that is supposed to be enjoyable for the small percentage of the population who finds playing with numbers from credit cards to be enjoyable. Any whoosies, it can turn this fun hobby into a taxing one if you have 15 different credits that you have to use, and some of those credits are once per year, some monthly, some are semi-annually, while some are quarterly, which means you'll be bouncing back and forth and constantly checking to make sure that you use your credits when you were supposed to use them and that you used all of them. If you find yourself doing that much work and beginning to become frustrated, then it just may be time to cancel some of those types of credit cards. I saved the simplest point for last since it's the simple one, and that is you have cards in your stock drawer that only get one charge every so often to keep them open. As long as this credit card isn't your first credit card, then it may be worth it to consider closing those credit cards that you simply aren't using. Some people may keep stock drawer credit cards open to keep statuses with hotels, airlines, or even rental car companies, while others do this because they need that particular card in order to have access to transfer partners. And to the Chase Sapphire Preferred, I am definitely looking at you right now, since this credit card would literally be the number 2 candidate in my wallet for cancellation, but I need to have access to the Chase transfer partners through this credit card, so I have to continue to hold it and keep it open. If you aren't keeping credit cards open for any of those reasons or any valid reason, then get rid of those stock drawer credit cards to make your life easier. Now, there's definitely much more that can be shared on this topic, and I'd like to know your thoughts on what makes you feel like you have too many credit cards. So comment down below and let's keep the discussion going. With that said, thanks so much for watching to the end. So as usual, coming over and get your high five.